A quick note for our viewers, for the videos in the description box below. Everyone is welcome to leave a comment, but for those that have questions, we would invite you to send an email to this email right here for any questions, so we can see it sooner and get a reply back to you. Omega of Deadly Heresy in Laodicea. This is a chart with notes. After the truth has been proclaimed as a witness to all nations, every conceivable power of evil will be set in operation. Here's a brief overview of the Omega of Deadly Heresies in Laodicea. Harvey Kellogg never recognized the Alpha pantheism. 1888, General Conference Session. The failure of eternal righteousness of Christ in verity. That was at Minneapolis. The flip side, Laodicea, with the Arian belief, is the flip side of the Triune Trinity. 1980, publishing of Catholic, Arian, Neoplatonist, Godhead in Fundamentals 2 and 4, with God the Eternal Son in Fundamental number 4, equals Catholic creeds. Psalms 2:7. Cannot be used to prove a begetting or emanating of he who made. Startling. Omega received. Sister White warned of the Omega of Deadly Heresies will be received and would be startling. Kairoi, the times of the nations closes. That's Luke 21:24. The 1980 Sabbath School Quarterly, second quarter, warning of fulfillment of Luke 21:24 by Dr. Gene Zerker. Three angels' messages, gone. Three angels' motif replaced by three wavy lines. Occult significance underestimated. First angel, Isaiah 9:6-7. Isaiah never called Jesus an eternal son. Harvey Kellogg. Laodicea didn't recognize the Alpha pantheism. Pantheism was just a general term which doesn't address its relationship to the Omega of Deadly Heresy. Minneapolis General Conference, 1888. The failure of eternal righteousness. Jones and Wagner could not be successful in the preaching of the 1888 message on account of their Arian, erroneous Godhead belief, namely that Christ was created or begotten back in time, meaning that he basically was an eternal son, which was from its commencement point a Neo-Platonist Greek pantheistic emanation doctrine, which is presented on the first section of this chart. Flip side. There is no difference between the Arian belief of Christ being created or Christ being begotten prior to the incarnation. Both are heresies, and both are the flip side of each other. In 1980, Laodicea placed this same Catholic Arian view, marking the failure of 1888 into their fundamental statements of beliefs, namely 2 and 4, the Eternal Son doctrine and the Trinity. Laodicea cannot place or present a new definition of the Eternal Son doctrine, since the Catholic creeds of both East and West historically define the doctrine as Christ being begotten or birthed in the heavens prior to the ages. This is the classic definition of the eternal Son doctrine, which is opposite of the incarnation Son doctrine of Romans 1:3, as well as the sonship of the resurrection doctrine of Romans 1:4. Psalms 2:7 cannot be utilized to prove a begetting of Christ prior to the ages, since Acts 13:30-33 states that the resurrection of Romans 1:4 was the fulfillment of Psalms 2:7. The startling issue with the Omega is that it has gone unrecognized and clearly presents the idea of sparks of their own kindling that Sister White spoke about in reference to the Omega heretical belief that Jesus Christ is the first emanation from the Father or universe, as it would be referred to in Neoplatonism, prior to the personalization of the universe as the Father, and the thought which issued forth as the Logos, or Word, as the Son. The Church Fathers owe a debt to Philo of Alexandria, who formulated this doctrine first in Judaism by declaring that the Debar, or Word, was an emanation from the one true God. Thus the stage was set for the infiltration of Neoplatonism from the 2nd century before Christ up to 1980, when the Eternal Son doctrine was placed into Laodicea's Statement of Beliefs, number 4, and continued into the 28 fundamental beliefs in these links. This marks the time for the success of the Omega of Deadly Heresy within the ranks of Laodicea's fundamental beliefs, thus spewing out the church at the completion of Luke 21:24, the Kairoi of the nations, a fulfilled prophecy that was presented in the Second Sabbath School Quarterlies by way of Swiss professor Jean Zerker, who, upon fulfillment of this prophecy in 1980, alerted the church that a prophecy had been fulfilled. Kairoi translates from the Greek as allotted times or probationary time. Laodiceans should study this matter in depth and see for themselves the correlation between Luke 21:24, fulfilled in 1980, and the imposition of the Eternal Son into the Statement of Beliefs of Laodicea, which is indeed of a startling nature. Please see these links. The three angels' messages gone, now replaced with the three wavy lines of energetic universe religion. Okay, here you have it. Take a look at this. First angel was previously thought of as being the Sabbath, is now the Omega of the sparks emanating from the universe in the form of eternal suns or human potential movement. Isaiah 9:6-7 never called Jesus an eternal son. The prophecy stated a child is born equals the incarnation son of Romans 1:3. A son is given. Later, the son given is called everlasting Father. The difference between the Omega of Deadly Heresies lays in the fact that Christ was originally everlasting Father number 2, alongside everlasting Father number 1, as depicted in Psalms 110:1 and John 1:1. It is an insult to Jesus Christ that, being everlasting Father number 2, being the Alpha and the Omega, the great I Am, be relegated to an inferior role, thus diminishing his greatness from eternal Father number 2 to God the Eternal Son. 2 ex-Jesuits, Pierre Teilhard, de Hardin, man will enter into the new sphere. The definition of new sphere is that the new religion involves the new Tower of Babel in the form of the new sphere, or one mind. New sphere appears to be borrowed from Neoplatonism, meaning humanity will reach a state of so-called unity. Malachi Martin, in the book Keys of This Blood, stated that all provincial globalists, meaning different denominational structures, will be experiencing shocks and mutations, willingly or not, and will have to lay aside cherished beliefs and allow themselves to be expanded into a globalist mindset. Sister White predicted this would happen to the church and called the whole affair the new movement, the procession. See this link. This is the reason as to why Adventists will be given their Sabbath, which they still believe is the first angel's message. The Pope has already declared in this link the Sabbath as being the true day in his Holy Saturday discourse. Catholics have now been deprived of their historic belief of Mary being co-mediatrix and the mediator of all graces. The Pope recently inferred Jesus Christ is the only mediator between God and man. As for Laodicea, she has already laid aside the first angel's message by accepting the eternal Son doctrine of Neoplatonism into their doctrinal statements of belief. Number 4, since the eternal Son defines the Trinity as in the category of Father, Eternal Son, and Holy Spirit, with Jesus instead of being defined as both eternal Father, number 2, and Son of God according to the flesh of the seed of David, equals Romans 1:3, or the Alpha and the Omega, root of David and offspring of David, Laodicea has now been assimilated into Noosphere by accepting the Omega of deadly heresy, depriving Jesus of his original inherent godhood of number 2 as presented in Isaiah 9:6-7 and John 1:1. And as stated in Revelation, the Lamb is the root of David, since the term root of David represents Jesus as God in the form of Alpha, in contrast with his role of Omega as in the offspring of David, as in incarnation, sonship. The eternal Son doctrine has replaced the proper understanding of incarnation sonship with the eternal Son doctrine, the Omega of deadly heresies. Whereas Jesus, being of the order of Melchizedek, he could never be an eternal Son of God, since the order of Melchizedek stipulates 3 prerequisites. 1, Melchizedek had no father or mother. 2, he had no beginning of days nor end of life. And 3, he was made like unto the Son of God. Jesus Christ fulfills these 3 prerequisites, which is the reason as to why he could never be the eternal Son of God, as stated in the Catholic creeds, which according to the creed was birthed or begotten prior to the ages, not created. Protestants who relish themselves as believing and righteous by faith will be impacted by the unity consciousness teachings that when one experiences enlightenment, you no longer have to believe, you become what you previously believed. This is the final stage of the Noosphere. Satan will then appear on the world stage and be welcomed by the masses as the father of this so-called universal enlightenment. It is stated in Revelation 13, they worshiped the beast and they worshiped the dragon. Conclusion 1, the real Jesus Christ is eternal Father, number 2, as well as the incarnation, Son of God according to the flesh or seed of David. The real Christ Jesus was never an eternal Son of God. Philippians 2 states that he existed in the form of God and thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but lowered himself into the slave form of human genetics as the uniquely begotten Son of God. Conclusion 2, Rome or Mystery Babylon the Great is not concerned with the external doctrines of cultural accoutrements of Christianity, or even of the figure of Jesus himself and the resurrection, etc. All of these matters will pertain to the religion of the past, or as they say, the Piscean age. The new religion will eventually do away with the historic concepts of Christianity and bring in the religion of the Noosphere. Problem with mainline Laodiceans is that they have never properly perceived the role of Rome in its final stage of transformation. She herself has permitted her own globalization and transformation. It has always been that way. The mysteries have always been the underground religion, and Christianity has been above the ground. So it was at the end of the times of the Gentiles, Luke 21:24, that the old mysteries return and resurface in the form of the eternal Son, to gather all her children under the umbrella of sparks equals frequencies, singularity, or eternal sons that descend from the universe in the form of souls. In other words, the human potential movement. Laodiceans need to read the final chapters of the Great Controversy to see why it states about how Satan is to transform Christianity into a new religion. Laodiceans have been caught up in the old religion of Sunday observance, etc., not realizing that the key to the new sphere equals the omega point is unity consciousness and is by way of a direct mystical experience or experiences. It will be that this transformation is to take place under the banner of Luciferianism. Then the mark of the beast cannot be Sunday observance. It's the law of one in the Luciferian age. The law of one is to be dictated by demons and found in the false interpretation of Deuteronomy 6:4, which in its true light entails the law of two, but will be used by demons to promote the law of one in the Luciferian age, and all will be brought into compliance by way of the 7 Noahide laws. Number 1.